Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Welcome to another episode of Contemporary Islamic Issues on Huda TV. I'm your host, Arqam Rashid. This episode is a continuation of last episode in which we were speaking about free mixing and gender interactions in Islam. So let's start off by welcoming and introducing our wonderful guest, Sheikh Asim Al-Hakim. Assalamu alaikum and welcome to the show.
Wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullah, and jazakumullah khair for having me.
Sheikh, it's always wonderful to have you. I say it in every episode, but it truly is. And obviously last episode we've laid down some of the foundations and you've spoken about the different societies, how they interact between genders within their societies, and you gave a wonderful breakdown of the different types of scholars. You said there was the scholar of the government, the scholar of the ummah, or the people, and the scholar of the Quran and the Sunnahs, the scholar of the millah. And this was a wonderful categorization, if we can say, of the different types of scholars and who should we go to find the actual Islamic rulings of segregation. And we said the next episode that we do, because we couldn't fit it into 30 minutes, that we will speak about the boundaries that Islam has set if interactions do take place. So let's start off by something that's very common, which is when the lack of interaction happens. When there's complete segregation and lack of interaction, when interaction does occur, it's as if something completely taboo. If for example, if you see a woman, run away, or it becomes something like people are almost scared of women. And for example, if you call your friend on the phone and his wife picks up, what do you do in that situation? You just hang up, or should she just hang up? It becomes almost rude in certain situations. So how do we, handle this?
Okay. Bismillah, alhamdulillah, salatu wassalamu ala rasulillahi wa alihi wa sahbihi wa tabi huda. Again, we go back to the balance, moderation. We have extremes. On one hand, we have those who see that there shouldn't be any kind of segregation. So we have PE, physical education classes, boys and girls swimming together, boys and girls playing sports together, and this is a problem. And on the other hand, you have those who, as you've described, are too extreme. So his wife's friend calls on the phone. The minute he hears a female's voice, he hangs up. And if he sees a woman in the street, he goes the other way and he starts to panic. Now, this is un-Islamic. The middle path is that you follow the Quran and the Sunnah. In terms of looking, it is the right thing to do not to look, to lower your gaze. This is what Islam tells us in Surah An-Nur. Allah Azza wa Jal says, قُلْ لِلْمُؤْمِنِينَ يَغُضُّ مِنْ أَبْصَارِهِمْ. Say and tell the believers to lower from their gaze. Meaning that not to completely not look. Because someone says, okay, I'm going to drive, I'm not going to look, I'm going to lower my gaze, boom. Are you insured? What happened? He said, the Quran told me to lower my gaze. He said, يَغُضُّ مِن, يعني from, but not all of it. And that is the similar thing when it comes to doubting. اجتنبوا كثيرا من الظن. Avoid a lot of suspicion and speculations, because some of it is sinful. Okay, what about the majority? The majority can't be truthful. But due to the influence of this little, the whole thing is haram. And due to the influence of your gaze, because it's like a poisoned arrow, you may look at this woman, she's ugly. The other one, she's fat. The third one, she is short. And you take this as a trend. And you look and send your gaze freely without any problem. But when the right moment clicks, Shaitan knows what makes you tick. So when she comes, that is the love of my life. And this is the one that I'm willing to go to hell with. Astaghfirullah wa atubu ilayh. This is how Shaitan works. He builds up these things and make you look at them as nothing. There's, small sins, no problem. So this comes when we talk about sending your gaze. If you walk, the Prophet said, alayhi salatu wasalam, to Ali, his cousin and his son-in-law at the same time, which brings us to the issue which is quite common in the West, that it is prohibited to marry your cousin. In Islam, it's the opposite way around. A lot of the people in the States say, she's my cousin, she's my mahram. No, she's not. The Prophet ﷺ gave his daughter to his cousin, Ali. And he himself married his cousin, Zainab bin Jahsh. The Prophet ﷺ married his cousin, and so on. So, the Prophet said to Ali, you have the first look, and the second look is against you, which means that you may walk on the street, you see a bombshell walking, accidentally you look and you see her. Now, the duration of your look counts. So if you say, okay, I'm not gonna blink.
I'm just, you know.
Yeah, I'm not gonna blink. The minute you blink, this is the first look. No, the minute you see her, this accidental look is free. The second one you have to pay for. So the second one, don't go back. And this shows you the amount of tolerance in Islam. Because it doesn't tell you walk looking at your feet until you bang into the light pole or whatever. No, look around, but when you see something haram, then you have to look the other way around. This is when it comes to looking. When it comes to interaction, so if I meet someone in the street, if I go to a shopping center and I need to buy something, there's no males to sell. If I go to a hospital, this happens in Islamic countries, and you find a nurse with a doctor and you need to take a prescription, a medicine, do something of the sort, you may ask, you may communicate, because this is a necessity. But don't take your time and liberty to do whatever you think it's normal. So yes, I go and look down at the desk or the papers. Excuse me, can you please give me the prescription that the doctor gave to me? Can I have your ID card? Without looking. But if you go and start flirting, say, hi, you look her in the eyes with a big smile and say, hi, I need my prescription, please. Haven't we met before? God, we have to stop meeting like this. What are you doing? Oh, cracking jokes? They say, okay, part of being a Muslim, I have to be, you know, like hip, and I have to make an influence over the others because I want to give da'wah. What kind of a da'wah is this? This is da'wah to hell, not da'wah to Islam. Islam tells you to be respectful, to maintain your dignity. Cracking jokes with the opposite gender, flirting and talking cheap like this is not Islam. So it tells you to be moderate. In some societies, the voice of a woman, they consider it to be a awra. It's a taboo. And they refer, some of the Bedouins, not the practicing Muslims, some of the nomads, they refer to their wives and daughters as in a third-party way. So, the family and I went to this place. May Allah Azza wa Jal protect you. So they put words to show that they are dishonored of having women attached to them. Some of them even put them in the back seat when they drive. So he put his wife in the back seat. And this was long ago, done by ignorant people. But they have this form of being extreme and looking down at women. Islam doesn't treat women like this. In the Quran, Surah Al-Mujadala, a woman came to the Prophet ﷺ when he was with his companions and asked about a question. They heard her voice. The Prophet didn't say to her, don't speak to me in front of these men, they're not mahram. No, she was abiding by the hijab, and she communicated to the Prophet ﷺ without softening her voice. Sometimes you get a call from a female operator or a sales or marketing agent. Assalamu alaikum. What the heck is happening? What are you doing? And some of them speak in a very luring voice. Is this Islam? Is this moderate? Islam prohibits this. Allah Azza wa Jal says, وَلَا يَخْضَعْنَ بِالْقَوْلِ فَيَطْمَعَ الَّذِي فِي قَلْبِهِ مَرَضٍ. and they should not soften their voice and speak in an ill manner, so that those who have illness in their heart would not be lured and tempted. Allah Azza wa Jalla is protecting our hearts, is purifying our hearts. So you have to be balanced between the two. Not to lift all veils and barriers and have it free mixed and nothing is banned, and at the same time not go to extremes and treating them as HIV positive people that you have to quarantine yourself from.
Okay, another very contemporary issue when it comes to gender interactions and gender mixing. I mean, obviously there's rules for what is the awrah of a woman in Islam, and there's rules for what is the awrah of men, what is considered private parts, what they have to cover under Islamic law. Now, many people say that because society has sexualized men to a new extent that was never done before. You know, there's many ads with men without their shirt, you know, showing abs, and they're saying that the society nowadays have sexualized men in a way that it was never done before, that it's not fair that the men's awrah is until the navel, and you know, women have to cover, you know, a lot more. How do we deal with situations like this? Women come up with the idea that, well, we're attracted to men in the same way. I mean, especially because they're so sexualized nowadays that, you know, how come men can walk without shirts? I mean, this will be attractive as well, just as a woman, you know, if she's uncovered. So.
Well, I beg to differ, because this is not the case. You never see in a TV ad a man making an ad of his Mustang GT or driving a beautiful bike shirtless. Unlike women, you would find an ad for a truck's tire, and the woman is wearing a bikini. What's the relation between a tire of a truck and the woman being nude? Women are being sexualized, given as a symbol of sex. And this is part of degrading women in the West. They say that we have segregation in Islam, and we are degrading women and suppressing them and doing all this, the whole 9 yards of Fox TV and CNN, etc. But actually they're the one who are doing this and exposing women to a lot of fitna and making them as sex symbols. And that's why they have the highest rate of rape worldwide. Like in an FBI report I read a couple of years ago, there's a woman being raped in the US every 3 or 7 seconds. Now, what is this? And this is a free country. We have no segregation. Men and women are alike. They go to universities, high schools, and everything is, alhamdulillah, we're civilized. No, you're not. Think again. This is not a civilization. This is not something to be proud of. What you must be proud of maintaining the dignity and honor of the people. Alhamdulillah. And these are not man-made laws. These are divine laws to protect. Now, what was the question again? I forgot.
Well, the question was that basically nowadays men are also sexualized as women.
Okay, so okay, I get the question. They say that women have desires and they look at men as men look at them, and this is completely false. Out of experience, if you get 100 men, and some of them are practicing Muslims, some of them are not, some of them are disbelievers, some of them are believers, and you get a bombshell to walk in between them, I guarantee you that 99% of them will have their heads turned, and they will look.
Even 100 for the first leg.
Probably. and they will be, wow. This is man's nature. But if you have 100 women, some of them are veiled, some of them are not, some of them believing, and you get like Tom Cruise or George Clooney to walk in between, because probably they're married or they have still some bashfulness and chastity in them. So men are far worse than women when it comes to sending the gaze and looking, etc. And that is why in Islam, men are allowed to marry up to 4, so that they can curb this desire in a lawful way, while women, by nature, can only love one man. This is the norm. Maybe there is something that is abnormal or unnatural with some women who have lost all types of modesty and chastity, but this is rare. And this is why they say, torn between 2 lovers, feeling like a fool, loving both of you is breaking all the rules. By a disbeliever's definition, she's torn between 2 lovers because she only loves one. And this is the nature of women.
Now I want to get further into, or just a little further into segregation, but before we do that, we're going to go for a short break, so stay tuned. Welcome back to Contemporary Islamic Issues. Now, before we went for that short break, we were speaking about segregation in Islam and free mixing and gender interactions. And we said when we were going to come back from that break, we'll get further into segregation. Now, Sheikh, many people say, I mean, we spoke about the rules on segregation in Islam, but many people say, well, segregation isn't from Islam. It's a completely new thing. If we look at the Prophet ﷺ's time, we can see that in his mosque, it wasn't segregated. Men and women didn't have this barrier in between them. Women prayed in the back and men prayed in the front. So this is different to what we have nowadays, whereas some masajid have different rooms for women. So is this from Islam, or is this a bid'ah? Is this a new innovation?
Okay, first of all, to say or claim that there was no segregation at the time of the Prophet ﷺ, this shows that a person who says this has no knowledge of the seerah, has no knowledge of the evolution of fiqh. Because we know that there are things and issues in Islam that took place in the very beginning, and then they were abrogated. Abrogated is to change the ruling. So we know that in the beginning of Islam, not covering the face was permissible. But then Allah Azza wa Jal made that mandatory specifically for the wives of the Prophet ﷺ, and then cascaded down to all women. They have to cover from head to toe, only having the ability to have an opening in the face veil to look from when they go out. Of course, if they are in their homes or within the vicinity of their mahrams and relatives, they can wear normal clothes and live normally. But when it comes to going out and being exposed to the public, they have to cover. And this is clearly illustrated in verse 53 of Surah Al-Ahzab and verse 59 of the same surah. In 53, Allah Azza wa Jal is addressing the mothers of the believers, that whenever the companions ask the mothers of the believers, that is the wives of the Prophet ﷺ, for utensils, for anything, they must ask them from beyond a veil. Why? Allah says, this is more purer for your hearts, the companions, and theirs, the mothers of the believers. And these are the most righteous segment or Muslims at that
at any time.
at all times. Yeah. That's correct. So what about us? In verse 59, Allah says, O Prophet of Allah, Ya ayyuhan Nabi, tell your wives, your daughters, and the women of the believers, the believing women, to lower their garments from jalabibihin, so that they would not be identified, hence harassed. So a woman is identified by her face. So if you lower the face veil, nobody would harass her. But if she uncovers her face and she is a beautiful woman, most likely those who are have sickness in their hearts would try to harass them or to do something that is unpleasant. The Prophet ﷺ was addressed to tell his wives to do this in 59. But we also know that they were ordered to veil in 53. So it's the same order to them and to his daughters and to the women of the believing men. Which leads us to the conclusion that at the time of the Prophet ﷺ, there was a time when women used to unveil. But then this was abrogated and the Prophet ﷺ was ordered to order them to cover completely. At the time of the Prophet ﷺ, there was a time when it was permissible for women and men to sit in the same room. But then came the instruction to segregate. As for the masjid of the Prophet ﷺ, is totally correct to say that they used to pray in the same masjid. However, the Prophet ﷺ drew the line when he said that the best rows of men are the first, and the worst rows of men are the last. And the best rows of women are the last. And the worst rows of women are the first. So the closer men and women are together, the worse it is, which indicates that segregation was there. Not only that, when it comes to tawaf, for example, Mother Aisha, and this is an authentic hadith, wanted to perform tawaf, and her companion said to her, let's get closer to the Kaaba, because the closer you get, the narrower the circle is, and the quicker you can make it.
Walk, yeah.
So she said, are you crazy? Go alone. We were ordered to make tawaf as far as possible for men. I'm not going to go in. I'm going to be at the outside circle so that I would be segregated from interacting with men. So there isn't this notion of having free mixing with men and women at the time of the Prophet ﷺ. There were a handful of incidents. For example, when the Prophet ﷺ went to battle, he may have taken one or two of his wives to assist with taking care of the wounded. And this was in his presence, that is the presence of the woman's mahram, traveling with her, overlooking at her deeds and seeing that. She's not a fighter, she's not a warrior, but she could take care of the wounded and she can provide water to those who need it. So in this concept, in this frame of work, yeah, this is acceptable. But to open it freely and say, listen, free mixing was there. So I'm working 8 hours from 9 to 5 in the office, and next to me is a co-worker. And she comes with her miniskirts, putting a makeup like a clown, missing the red nose though, and she has soaked herself in a bottle of perfume, and then you say, Akhi, don't touch this. What is this? And you call this as the case at the time of the Prophet ﷺ? Definitely not. And this leads only to fire. This leads only to ignition. So one has to be realistic. So many times we hear muftis, scholars, saying that if the woman is properly dressed and the Islamic conditions are fulfilled, she can work in a mixed environment, she can go to the university, mixed co-educated education, etc. These guys are speaking from their ivory towers. They've never been down to earth. Houston, we have a problem. You guys have to go down. Go to a university class. If I go to a university class and next to me are two gorgeous girls with the shorts and inappropriate dresses, and I'm trying to lower my gaze and she says, excuse me, can I have the homework of yesterday? I wasn't there. And I said, yeah, I have to be a good Muslim. I have to respect myself. Okay, here's this. Oh, thank you. You're a charm. And a few weeks later, good morning, good evening, and hi, how are you doing? So I cannot not respond to salam. Allah tells us that if you're greeted, you have to respond to it with a similar greeting or better. So, in my case, in my point of view, she says, hi. I said, hi. What is this? I said, it's better to reply to the greetings. And then she says that we're having a party on Saturday night, so you're welcome to come and join. And said, yeah, what do you expect when you send a teenager to such a school? Even if you send a grown-up man, what will happen? So to claim and to try to make it easy that, yeah, the Prophet ﷺ, they were mixing with today's society, this is unfair.
But I mean, at the same time, it could be said, for example, in Muslim countries, this would be easier to be applied actually. So for example, if I'm in Saudi Arabia, it would be very easy for me to segregate myself and save myself from those type of fitnas. But if I'm in the West, where interaction is almost a must on a daily basis, where you don't have, and not everybody gets the chance to go to a segregated school, not everybody gets the chance to do homeschooling, you know, so in this type of situation, how can a Muslim conduct himself? What rules should he follow? How should he behave in class? How should he apply the Islamic rulings to his situation? Obviously, he can't go to a segregated school. He needs to get this education. What should he do then?
Wallahi, akhi, you have to improvise. I cannot give you answers to all or solutions to all these types of questions. I know if I were to live in the US or in Europe, I would never send my children to a mixed school. Maybe the males, the boys, I may send them because they are boys, they are the bread earners. They have to pursue their schools and to pursue a career so that they can sustain a living. Now, the ideal situation is to migrate to a Muslim country, which is unfortunately not possible, especially with lots of the Muslim countries' restrictions.
On visas.
On visas, on so many things. The second solution is to segregate yourself from such a community and try to homeschool. The third situation is for sending boys only, but also having Sunday school, that is Quran school, of course, and trying to give them all the necessary immune systems that would help them face what they're facing. For girls, I would never dare send them to such schools. I've traveled to the West a lot, and I still do. And I've seen families coming to me crying, saying, one of them, my daughter, she's 17, she left home a week ago, we don't know where she is. She called us 3 days ago that she's with her boyfriend. What can we do, Sheikh? So, well, don't ask me. I don't have solutions. You wanted a good life. You wanted to live the American dream or the European dream, like all the brothers in Syria are doing at the moment. Traveling to, I'd like to live in Sweden. I want to live in Norway. I'd like to go to Germany. Why? Because the standard of living is high and they are thinking of this type of work or type of life they're looking for. Is it Islamic? No, it's not. So you should gather together, the Muslim community, and build a Muslim school. Try to make an environment where the Muslims come together, preserve their religion, their faith, their customs, and their way of living. But I cannot say that if I cannot break the rules, I have to bend them. I'm shocked when I go to some of these seminars that these so-called da'is conduct, and I see this da'i, mashallah, who is eloquent, mashallah, speaks nice words, Quran, speaks tafsir, speaks sunnah, speaks fiqh, but I see his audience free mixing, and he's looking to the women and talking to them eye to eye, cracking jokes and making fun of whatever he wants as if this is normal. And I start to eat my heart out to say, Ya Allah, Sheikh Asim, what are you doing? You're in the wrong place, you're in the wrong business. Akhi, may Allah Azza wa Jal protect us.
Inshallah.
If you can't walk the talk, if you can't abide by the sunnah, and you are being a role model to others in doing this. If the Sheikh does this, then I can do it as well. I can sit next to a woman. I've seen, you've seen this like a few years ago, there's a masjid where they have the imam as a woman. And the a person calling the adhan is a woman. And when they pray all in one row, men and women. What kind of a prayer is this? The Imam says, Istawu. I'm getting close to the one next to me, following the sunnah. God, it looks nice. This is Islam. It might be a bit funny, but wallahi, it's heartbreaking to consider these deviant, ignorant imbeciles to be representing Islam. They have no knowledge of Quran, no knowledge of Sunnah, no fear of Allah Azza wa Jal in their hearts. Otherwise, they would not have gone astray and against the way of the Prophet ﷺ. Islam came to protect men and women, but women are the magnet. And this is why the Prophet ﷺ told us that there are so many things a woman should stay away from. Clothes, perfumes, because you may smell something that makes your head turn. Even the ear has a problem. Allah Azza wa Jal says in Surah An-Nur that women must not strike the floor with their feet, so that men would not find the sound of their jewelry they're wearing on their feet. Now, all what you hear is a sound. It's like a woman wearing high heels and walking, and you hear the sound of the high heels. Even if she is a goat camouflaged in the clothes of a woman wearing high heels, it still strikes a chord in your heart.
Thank you very much, Sheikh Qasim al-Hakim. We're at the end of this episode. So once again, thank you very much. Dear viewers, I hope you enjoyed and benefited from this episode, and inshallah catch us for another episode of contemporary Islamic issues. And until then, may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala bless us all. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.